Hi people and swordfishes, welcome to my channel, Me and Places. I just read this one and I want to share it with you, which is called Fateless or Fatelessness. There is two options, both are same kind of book. This is a part of Vintage Classics series, that's why it's saying vintage right here. It's not the name of a writer, the name of the writer is Imre Kertész. You know how I found this book? I watched a movie called Fateless. It was very cinematic, very beautifully made, a bit boring in storytelling, but in the very end there was a phrase which was so poetically beautiful that I thought I just have to Google if this is based on any kind of book, because sounds like a good writer's verse. And I found this book, I bought it, I read it, and now I have stuff to tell you. Now this is a very complicated book. Because of the theme, because of the perspective, because of the thoughts it will raise in you, and because of the language. I found it a bit hard to read. It was, of course, originally written in Hungarian. Imre is a Hungarian writer. I don't read in Hungarian, unfortunately. I was reading in English, as you can see this book is in English. But when I finished it, I thought it would be great to read it on some other language that I can read on. It seems like English doesn't really fit the Hungarian. These sentences seem too complicated, hard to follow. Something makes me think that maybe if I read it on another language it would be just easier. Now, I cannot give you much spoilers, because even if I tell you the whole story, it will not spoil you anything, because this is not about story. There is not much action happening in a storytelling. There is a lot of philosophical thoughts of the main character. So this novel is about Holocaust. It tells the story of a youngster whose name I have no idea how to pronounce right. Tell me if you know. First, his father goes to labor work. After that, the main character is working himself outside of Jewish quarter, where he goes by bus. One day this bus is being stopped. All the Jews are marched out of the bus and later transferred to Auschwitz. After that he goes to Buchenwald, another concentration camp, and then one more, and this novel is mostly his observations in those concentration camps. Now this is something you can call a semi-biographical novel, because Imre himself was a youngster as he visited few concentration camps. Can you say that? Visiting. He's forced to visit 3 camps due to Holocaust. He's himself from Budapest, and the main character is also. The main character is quite, how do I say that? He rationalizes a lot, and he's not that emotional. He's a bit estranged from everything that happens, and maybe not empathic enough as we would expect him to be in situations where he is. So this character might raise even negative feelings in some people. Above all, we should know he is a teenager, and it's Holocaust, war. That's it. That should be enough not to judge him. You don't feel like you experience these things from inside. You don't feel that the main character experiences these things inside. He has this ability to kind of see it from a side, and that's a very unique one. At the same time, we are seeing the bizarre things happening, and the main character takes us to these moments when he felt happiness. That is realistically complex, and that is why I like this book. And that is why I can call it quite a philosophical one, because it kind of gives you many different perspectives on the same thing. There are a few interesting points I was thinking about while reading this book. First one is that the main character gets injured at some point and he gets into a local hospital, or whatever you can call it. There he meets a doctor who persistently asks him what has he done, what is his crime, why is he in concentration camp. And he gets really surprised hearing the whole story, that actually he hasn't done anything, as did most of people in concentration camp. They are just usual people. And that doctor gets so surprised, like this is the first time he's hearing this. You know, Imre has his own experience. If something like that happened in his own life, this took me to many thoughts. And it made me wonder to hear their perspective. A new doctor who doesn't know what's happening and how he finds out, how he makes his conclusions, how he explains himself, everything that's happening around him, and what he does after he understands what's the deal. That would be a very interesting thing to know. And this is a good example of the thoughts that this book takes you to, you know. There is like hundreds of things I was wondering during this book. Another thing I was wondering is that, you know how many psychologists say if you have a freedom inside, nobody can take it from you? Well, that guy for sure had his freedom till the end. And that is something to admire and something that is heartbreaking at the same time. It's not something you expect to hear from a person being in a concentration camp. It's not maybe something you're used to hear about this experience. And actually this uniqueness of his perspective is what I love about this book. One more thing to say about this book is that this is actually a Nobel winner, which made Imre the first Hungarian who won a Nobel Prize in literature. Ironically enough, he lived a long time in Germany and that's where he found his peace. He was born and he died in Budapest though. But we have his books to remember him, right? All in all, I do totally understand why this book won a Nobel Prize, and I believe it's an important book. I don't have any more words about this. I hope you just read it. There is two more books that followed this one. I did not read them, and if I will, as I said previously, I would like to read them on another language. If you did, please tell me if it makes the whole picture, you know, fuller, or it's the way it is without that. That's all. Thank you so much for watching and stay curious. Bye!